Welcome to our PN2 lecture for Module 9, which is intracranial regulation. And we have about a half hour today to be together and to go over some of the concepts. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see it all okay?
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's get going here. And so, as always, we're going to start with just a few announcements. There will be, when I release the exam, which actually it's probably not going to get released until between, I would say, about 6 o'clock tonight. I had a student who had a technology issue, and we're not going to be able to get it totally resolved until late afternoon. So as soon as I can release the grades, I will. So just so you know, and when I do, the email will have a link for you to schedule an appointment to meet with me if you would like to do that. So please take advantage of that. Normally my meetings are on Monday because that's my office day, but it's going to be Labor Day and I'm going to be camping. So those meetings will be on Tuesday and Wednesday. So just be aware of that and we'll find a time. Hopefully that'll work for you if you need to meet with me. Also making you aware, final exam will be Thursday, September 17th, so 2 weeks from today. That start time will be 10 o'clock, so from 10 to 12:30. Very important that you start the exam at the start time. I had a lot of people starting late today, so I'm hoping to get some better compliance with that. I get lots of questions about where do we put the remediation for our proctored exams, and Rasmussen didn't create a separate Dropbox for that. So you're going to go back into Module 8 and submit it there along with your report in that same Dropbox. So it is open and you should be able to drop it in there, and then all of the points that are associated with that will be put in that specific spot in the gradebook. So be aware of that. We have a course project that's due Sunday as well, in addition to the proctored remediation. And if you're unsure about that, there's a video that provides some clarification under course project on the left in Blackboard. Please take the time to view that. I can tell which students have reviewed the extra helps that I've put out there for them and those who haven't, because I can see it in the work that they submit. So if you're struggling to get your points with course projects and you haven't been looking at the resources I put out there, I encourage you to do so. Be sure that you're looking at your clinical paperwork from your instructor or your grade book. Make sure you have everything in. We'll be finishing up clinicals this week, and in order to successfully pass the clinical, you have to have all of your requirements met from your clinical instructor. So if you have questions, reach out to your clinical instructor. And you will be getting a final evaluation that must be signed and sent back to your clinical instructor to be uploaded. That's a Rasmussen requirement. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be camping this weekend. And so I'm going to have limited availability starting Friday afternoon after clinical through Sunday, probably, or excuse me, Monday afternoon. I should be back available at that point. I'll have my cell phone, but I won't have my computer or internet access to get on to look at anything. But you could text me. Probably texting is the easiest way if there's something that you need that I can answer quickly for you. So please do actually text me if you need me this weekend. And let's see, I did learn a little bit about our next quarter. All the didactics, so all the lectures are going to continue to be online. Labs are going to be a combination of virtual, and then there will be some actual time on campus for your labs that'll be scheduled. So your instructors will be in touch with you about that. I don't have the details of that. And then we are really fortunate in Rockford for our clinicals. Our clinical partners have opened up to us, and I believe every course that has a clinical component is going to actually get some hands-on time in the clinical setting. But know that there's a few limitations, so you could have like all but one or two of your sessions could be in the actual clinical setting, and then our hope is to have the other two sessions be simulation on campus, so it wouldn't be the online that we've been going through the last couple quarters, but you'll get some actual simulation, which we like to incorporate that anyway. We get some focused, controlled experiences for you that way, so that's going to work out really well. And then, and that of course is tentative based on what the state regulations are. If they changed, or local regulations, if they change and we have to adapt accordingly, then we will do so. Also letting you know about dose calculation. Don't forget that's coming up. It'll be in the first week of your course next quarter, just like it is this quarter, except if you were an individual who were able to take advantage of the remediation opportunity, if you didn't get that 100% on those first two attempts and you did the remediation, that is not going to be available next quarter. That was a one-time thing. So be sure that you are preparing and you are ready to successfully demonstrate that you can do dose calculation at 100%. 2 attempts as always, but 2 different tests, but you have to do it on the first attempt of each test. So if you have questions about that, please do reach out to me. All right. Any questions from those of you who are able to join me?
Will the dosage calculation be very similar to the like the rest? It's not going to be any different this quarter, like because we have peds. You know what I mean? Like there's some ped questions that are different.
So I believe the dose calculation is intended to increase in difficulty as you progress through the program, slightly increase in difficulty. So they may not be the exact same type of questions, but it's not going to be anything that you haven't had through all the work that you did in your pharmacology lab. So if you go and pull out your old pharm worksheets and cover up your answers and rework those and do a variety of types of questions, make sure you're doing drops per minute and mils per hour and partial doses, max and mins, that type of things, you should be okay. I would hope.
Okay, awesome. I just didn't know if, because we've had pediatrics, like they throw in, how the peds is different. I don't know. It's not really all that different, but
yeah,
there's a little bit different there.
There's
there's a lot
of
max minimum. Yeah, it's weight based more.
And max minimum,
and that could be on there. I mean, that was on there last quarter, so
it was. That's okay. That's okay. It's a legitimate question, so thank you for asking it. Any other before I move on and start talking about this next topic? Okay, so you're going to discuss this autonomic dysreflexia. Part of your activities for your clinical this week had to do with this. And I just want to highlight some key points about it. If you've had clinical, then this will be all review for you. If you haven't had clinical until Friday, then you'll have a jump start on some of your clinical stuff. So I just want to draw your attention. So autonomic dysreflexia, this is a potentially life-threatening condition, and it's experienced by people who have had a spinal cord injury. And it's caused by gastrointestinal, genitourinary, or vascular stimulation below the site of the injury. And so, where the lesion is on the spinal cord. So that's the areas where these individuals have no sensation. And so they don't understand that they have something going on that could cause them harm. But their body has this systemic response to it, to that stimulation, even though they can't feel it. And so it is, as I mentioned, a potentially life-threatening condition. And let's see here. So can anybody share with me some of the symptoms of autonomic dysreflexia?
High blood pressure.
Yeah, you get this sudden, very high blood pressure. Good. What also accompanies that with what other vital sign do we see?
Low heart rate.
Yes, so we see the bradycardia that comes with it. So super high systolic and diastolic blood pressures, and then we see the bradycardia. What else? What else might we assess on this patient? Facial flushing, yes. So thank you. And that actually the flushing is any of the skin that's above the level of the lesion. So when we talk about the lesion, we're talking about where the injury is on the spinal cord itself. Below the lesion, we're going to see pale skin. You might see some fever. Anybody else have some other ones? Okay. So the individual might experience some blurred vision, severe throbbing headache. Actually, I could probably pop these up here for you. Severe throbbing headache, and even the feelings of apprehension that maybe they can't really pinpoint. And so we want to educate the patient about this, that these are some signs and symptoms you might experience. And if you do, this is an emergency and you need to take action right away to resolve this. So lots of education around this. So mark down chart 43-2 and 43-3. So 43-2 are some key features of autonomic dysreflexia, and 43-3 is emergency care. So what is the first thing that we need to do for a patient who is experiencing this condition? Does anybody know our first action? Sit them up, yes. So sit them up in high Fowlers if it's safe to do so. Get them as high as you can. That serves to help to lower the blood pressure actually a little bit and buy you some time. And so what should we do next after we've set them up? Let's say you're in a hospital setting. That's okay. I know you all haven't had a chance to dive into these resources yet. So loosening any tight clothing. So yeah, that's something you're definitely going to do too. If you're in a hospital setting though, call rapid response right away. You shouldn't have to handle this on your own. Get some help in there with you. And that rapid response is going to get the provider there because you may need some PRN medications for this patient. So call that rapid response. The most common cause of autonomic dysreflexia is actually urinary retention. So, you know, one of the first things as you're repositioning the patient, you can be looking for tight clothing and things like that, any pressure points, obvious pressure points on the skin, but you want to get that bladder assessment done as quick as you can. And if they're retaining urine, you want to get it out as quick as possible. And then we're also considering, you know, does this individual have a UTI? Another common cause is fecal impaction. So we may need to assess for that. So that can be a little tricky. You might actually have to get that blood pressure down with a medication first before you can lay the patient down to check for that fecal impaction. But, you know, we want to get that fecal impaction taken care of if that's the trigger that's causing this. And then, you know, as we're doing all this, we're assessing for any pressure injuries. You know, and it might be as simple if someone were in a wheelchair and they wheeled up too close to a table or to a bed or something and pinched their foot or their ankle or their leg somewhere, and they can't feel it, so they don't know that they're causing this injury. So, you know, sometimes it's as simple as that. You can identify it right away. We're going to monitor the blood pressure for this individual about every 10 to 15 minutes for quite a while. And then you would expect the provider to order either nifedipine or some nitrates to help lower that blood pressure. Those are the two most common medications. And then if we do have recurrence of this, they may order something prophylactically for it. Usually it's an alpha blocker that they order prophylactically. And bear with me here, this will be in your frequently asked questions. So common alpha blockers that they choose are terazosin, doxazosin, or prazosin. And then again, the calcium channel blockers might also be prescribed prophylactically if needed. So, and nifedipine would be one of those that they might select. Okay, any questions about autonomic dysreflexia? Okay, I'm going to move on to our next slide because we don't have a lot of time today. So what I have here to show you is a video, and it takes a minute to come up here. So this video was actually designed, was created by the Army, and it's a seatbelt awareness video. So just a little disclosure there. But as you were watching this together, what I want you to pay attention to and be prepared to talk about are some of the psychosocial needs of the individual who is involved in this incident and the family. So you're going to get a little insight into some of the experiences of the family. So I'm going to hit play. If you can't hear it or see it, if somebody would let me know once it starts.
So I was just driving to drill, really tired. I fell asleep at the wheel.
They just think won't happen to me.
I have no clue why I wasn't wearing my seatbelt that day. I have no idea. I was on my way to drill. I had missed my weekend drill, so it was a Monday morning, and I was going to make up the time that I had missed. And so I was just driving to drill, really tired.
And you prepare yourself for my child's a soldier, and war isn't pretty. So I'm prepared. I think I am. That if war injures them or takes them, that's the chance we took. Blew me away. She was just going to drill. She wasn't in a battle. She was just driving to drill. And she'll never walk again.
Got to bed late and got up the next morning. I think I got up around 5:30, and it takes 3 hours to get to my unit. And I got in the car and drove. I was just exhausted. Well, I fell asleep, and I fell asleep at the wheel, and I wrecked. I woke up and I realized what was happening and tried to put it back in control, and overpowered it, and then it just rolled.
Family members are calling you, and it's this is wrong, this is wrong, this is going on, you know, is she gonna make it, is she gonna not?
And the nurse gave me the details that she had and said that she couldn't feel from the waist down. And I almost lost it then. It took my breath away, a sucker punch.
Felt like I went out the window and the car rolled over top of me and left. I was hanging halfway in, halfway out, and it rolled and left me in a brush pile, and I laid there.
You know, the older family members, just total devastation, weeping, crying, wanted to help, obviously help Karen, but there was the only people that could help were the doctors, obviously. There was shock, traumatic shock for the whole family.
I have no clue why I wasn't wearing my seatbelt that day. I have no idea.
I was furious, but I couldn't say a word to her. I couldn't, because she didn't do this to me. She did it to herself.
Brokenhearted. That's all it is. You're just totally crushed in terms of there's nothing that I can do to make her feel better. What do I say? You know, I don't know what she's going through. I don't know what mom's thinking. I don't know what dad's thinking.
And had I had it on, I would have been held in the seat and nothing. I can't say nothing because things could have went differently, but I wouldn't have fallen out of my car. My car landed up against two trees on the passenger side. So had everything went the same and I had my seatbelts on, I could have walked away from the accident.
And yeah, she did this to herself, but she did it to me. Because whatever she needs, it's always me. It has to suck it up and do it. And I will. I always will. That's not the problem. It's like, why didn't you wear that stupid seatbelt?
Oh, I think it's going to start on me. Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to get to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So, I would love if you would share with me your thoughts on what you just watched.
So sad. This stuff gets me all the time. I don't know.
I know. I have watched that. I can't even tell you how many times I've watched that video, and that last scene chokes me up every time.
Yeah. No, it's sad. We actually, my neighbor, he's in a wheelchair from the waist down because he was in the military too, but didn't die or didn't have anything happen in combat. He dove off of a pier and he's paralyzed from the waist down. And it's just so sad. Like his parents felt the same way. Like, you know, my God, they didn't go off to war, but it's a dumb accident, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad. But it's
It
just
is.
so much for the family. Whole new life they have to live, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any other thoughts? You can be honest with your reaction. I get all kinds of reactions in class from this. Anybody feel a little angry towards the mom?
I was getting ready to say that I was almost kind of taken aback by her, just her reaction to it. I don't know. I understand like the anger, obviously, but like Jen said, it was just a dumb accident. And it's not all about her. It's about, she made it all about her, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah, and I that's a sentiment that I hear every quarter from students and completely understand.
Yeah,
that.
I was going to say, I mean, she shouldn't like put all the blame on her. She kind of just put all the blame on her daughter and saying that she was dealing with it. But I mean, you could also ask, like, why wasn't the seatbelt safety enforced with her when she was younger? So it's like
And
everyone
how do we
there.
know it wasn't?
That's true.
It may have been, you know, we make choices as adults that are not always what our parents raised us to choose.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
just always wear my seatbelt.
I do too.
And the thing is, too, you don't know. The same thing could have happened even if she had her seatbelt on. No, would she probably not been thrown for the car, but she still could be paralyzed. So the blaming that is not going to change, or even talking about it isn't going to change the outcome of what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you know, we saw the one picture of her when she was in the hospital. She's got the cast on, and her brother talked about what the family was experiencing with the initial finding out of this accident. So, what can we do as nurses for the patient and/or for the family? There's meeting their psychosocial needs. What are some things we should think about?
Probably getting them hooked up with a support group or something with other people who've experienced the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Would you like call in the chaplain or someone to talk to them about it?
Yeah, that might be a great opportunity to meet some of their spiritual needs, you know, because, you know, the mother showed, to me, it took a lot of courage for that mother to be very real about what she was feeling. Because, as you can tell, this video was recorded several years after the accident. And, she was just very real what she was experiencing, and she's not alone. But do they get a safe place to voice that? And the chaplain might be a great place for that. Family members are going to be angry because everyone's life is affected. The individual who's in the accident has major physical and social adjustments that'll need to be made, but so does the entire family. It changes everything. I know this young woman. Well, she's I shouldn't call her young woman anymore. She was a young woman when it happened. She was 18, but she's 30 now, and she can't go visit some of her family members because their houses are not adaptable to her wheelchair, and shame on them for not making it adaptable. But those are real things. I go, most of I'm like this crazy quilter, and I go into quilt shops and I think, oh, I couldn't bring Karen with me here. She couldn't come in here because she couldn't get up the steps to get into it. The wheelchair wouldn't fit between the things. I think of any store I go into, I think of that. And, life has changed for everybody when this happens. And they're going to be angry. Karen was angry for a while. She was angry at the world. The brothers, he's very helpless and feeling helpless. He wasn't helpless. He was feeling helpless. And, we didn't know what to do to help her. So, we would never want a parent to express what this mother did to their child during those initial phases of this adjustment period. We wouldn't, but we want to give that parent a place to talk about it that's safe, that isn't going to negatively impact their family member. So, any other thoughts? So I'm going to be posting, I'm not sure if it's out there yet or not. I can't remember if I did it before the quarter started, but I'm going to be posting a question and answer thing. One of my first classes actually wrote down questions that they would like to ask ask Karen about spinal cord injuries and what it was like, and she was gracious and sent a letter back. And so I post that just to give you some insight. She's very transparent about some of the struggles that she's had, and was wonderful to answer the questions for the students. So and this was taken this past year. She is now a mother. She's got a little girl who's, I think she's 8 months old now. I'm trying to do my math, 8 to 9 months old. So this was taken, I think, in the spring, early summer or spring. So even individuals who have had a traumatic injury like this can lead a very, very full life. Karen had her accident the Monday before Labor Day weekend. So, it was 11 years, 12 years ago now. And in January, she enrolled in college, and family was frightened to death that she was headed off to college so soon after an injury, and how is she going to be successful? And she was more than successful. She competed on a wheelchair basketball team, and I'm sorry, I get choked up. She has a master's degree in social work and works with people with disabilities, and she's amazing. So there's hope for people who have these types of accidents that change their life. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I really think it goes back to mindset afterward. Whether they look at it as because I've read stories where people actually look at it as a positive thing, because it impacts their life so much and it gives their life, some meaning, not that they don't have meaning before, but, directs them on that path so they can help other people.
And Karen has actually expressed that. She said it seems weird to say, but this was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. She was headed down some paths that weren't the greatest, and this changed her life in the end, a good way. Not that life isn't hard, because it is.
I don't know. Have any of you heard of the Oscar Mike organization? It's for
No.
veterans who are in wheelchairs, like keeping them on the move. That's my neighbor is part of it. He's on like their rugby team, even though he's in a wheelchair. They travel all over the country to like compete in these rugby tournaments.
Tell me
And
the name of that again.
Oscar Mike.
Very cool. I'm writing that down.
It's such a
No,
cool
that's so cool.
organization. And they actually just had their whole home redone by like, they were on TV on Lifetime or whatever. One of those places came out and redid because he couldn't get up the stairs. They needed an elevator put in. But Oscar Mike like organized this whole thing for them. So now he has an elevator to be able to get upstairs, downstairs into the basement, a huge work space in the garage. He has 3 kids now. It's crazy, but this organization is so cool. Like the things that I've met so many of the people who are in it, and it's just amazing. So you should check it out.
I will.
It's
And I'll let
cool.
her know about it too. She likes to be involved
Yeah.
in those kinds of things, so she may.
I mean, they have all these sporting things for them to do. I mean, they go skydiving. They do. I mean, it's amazing what this organization does. So I, of course, now support it and have all their T-shirts. So that's pretty cool.
That's really neat. Thank you for sharing that. So, all right. So this is the content we have, and any questions before I let you go? Make sure you listen to the recorded lecture. Most of the meat of the concepts are in there. All right, I'm going to stop recording.